All right, everyone. Welcome back from lunch. My voice is slightly amplified today. I don't know if that'll help or just be really weird and echoey and distracting, but it does mean that the audio on this live stream should be a lot better than the audio on any previous video that you've watched from me. How does everyone like React so far? It's pretty cool, right? When we first started teaching it, I was into it. I thought we should teach it, and then I always kind of hate things when I'm first using them. So I was like, oh god, I hate JSX. JSX was my main thing that I hated. I was like, why do we don't need more syntax? We could just do this with functions, and I've come to like it a whole lot. I think especially arrow functions that yield JSX are just one of the nicest ways to assemble a web page I can possibly imagine. So I hope you start to find or continue finding React to be to your liking. And maybe this tool called React Router will help solve some problems for you, and you will like React as a whole more. So I have a short talk and then a live code where we're going to look at how you can use this to make your page actually sort of act like a web page. So it has the URL bar, for example, is going to do some reasonable thing, and URLs are going to not all just take you to the same place in the app. And when you reload your pages, you are going to stay on the view you're on rather than be taken back to the very beginning, which I think is the case as of the end of Juke 1. You reload, and all is lost. OK, so that was the end of the show, not the beginning. Oops. All right, great. So React Router gives us a way to make sense out of this. So we have a web page. It's going to be made up of a whole bunch of different parts. Those parts are going to be mapped generally to accessible URLs. So in standard web land, if we go and we go to a web page, we get the index, the server responds with the index, and then we click on a link, and we go through the same process all over again. So the browser is going to go and request, I guess we clicked settings, so it's going to go request settings. We're going to get back settings.html. We're going to draw it, and so on. So the views are stored in the server and generally interpolated on the server. So Nunjux is a tool that you might use for a non-single page app. And they're served up as HTML pages. So whenever the user goes to a new page, we have this navigation event where the browser trashes whatever is in the tab and goes and pulls in a new document and parses it anew. This has some nice qualities to it. For one thing, you can serve data to devices that don't have fancy JavaScript or are very bad at fancy JavaScript. But a major downside is that each page has to sort of re-request style sheets and script files and so on. Most of those requests will hit the cache after the first load, so it's not as bad as it seems. But there is at least one round trip between when you click on a link and it has to go and get the page and then render it, and that round trip adds some latency. So more and more web apps are now single-page apps where, as far as the browser is concerned, we're not really navigating the page, but as far as the user is concerned, we are. So in a single-page app, we still have this initial request-response cycle where we get some page. We get the index.html typically. But then after that, whenever we click on a link, so in this case, I guess we clicked on display the settings view, we don't fetch the entire page again. We instead just fetch whatever we need to turn what we're currently looking at into what we want to be looking at. And we render that page. And in fact, we can start rendering the settings view before we even have this. And you'll see this a lot in applications where it starts to render the page. It draws some Chrome around the page, and then the central part, the data, fills in a bit later. So that's generally considered better. It generally feels a little bit more responsive, even if it is actually taking just as long to get you to a page that has all your data on it. Also, it usually doesn't take just as long because this 3 lines of JSON is much smaller than like a whole HTML file. So we can represent our data in transit more efficiently. So yeah, on-page change for a single page application, we are not going to reload a page. Instead, we are somehow going to replace the elements on the page and like manipulate the DOM to construct the new page in place. Ajax is going to play a big role because that's how we're going to issue these requests to the server without causing a page navigation event. And there's this new API that we're not going to interact with directly, but that you should be aware of, called the Browser History API, that lets us hook into events like the user clicked on the back button, or the user changed to a different URL that is still on this site. So all of those are hooks. If you Google like Browser History API on MDN, you'll see the interface for it. It exposes a couple of events that aren't like particularly complicated. And then on top of that, we have React Router, which is going to use those events and basically ensure that our UI stays in sync with what is in the URL bar. So if I like just paste a URL into the URL bar and that URL goes somewhere deep into our site, the idea is we should get the correct view. So it ties into URL and history, which means it gives you ways of attaching like pages, not pages, but of attaching components to different routes. And it lets you sort of nest the components that you attach so you can assemble the application piece by piece. And this is like a little bit abstract, but we're going to look at a specific example in a second. So now that we're doing routing on the front end, we also have front-end routes, which are, unfortunately, or fortunately, in any case, they are necessarily completely different from our back-end routes. So the front-end routes are routes that our users are going to be like interacting with directly. And typically, our back-end routes are going to be either routes that serve index.html, or they're going to serve some JSON. They'll be like an API route. That is not always going to be the case in a React application. You can have, first of all, you can have routes on the back end that do like server-side rendering and will actually serve React-rendered HTML to the browser and then tell the browser, okay, you take it from here. We don't handle that. There's like a lot of like sort of finicky edge cases with getting server-side rendering to work, so we don't really work with it in this program, although it's definitely something you can explore on your own. So the basic principle of React Router is that when the URL bar matches the one specified in the route, so really when it matches the pattern specified in the route, React Router is going to mount that component and unmount whatever it had previously mounted. So let's look at that. Any questions so far, like conceptually? Okay, let's just look at React Router. And for that, I have this lovely puppies and kittens demo that Kate made. Such puppies. Okay, this is the live stream that we're watching, which is going to have a moment of inception. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got going on here. I think I've started this. I have started this. It's just showing us nothing whatsoever. Okay, so have you seen this demo before, the puppies and kittens demo? Maybe? No? Okay, that's okay. It's pretty simple. So we've got a bunch of puppies, and we have a bunch of kittens. And we have some API routes that go and return them. So if I go to /API puppies, I see, okay, a list of puppies. And I guess these are by, yeah, it looks like we're finding puppies, so I can go to a puppy by name. So here's a puppy, puppies Taylor. Great. So we want to make a little front end for this where we can basically do the things we might expect. Like we would like to be able to go to /puppies and see the puppies. Right now, we can't get puppies. We would like to be able to to go to kittens and see the kittens. Again, we can't get kittens. So sad. So let's fix this problem first. Right now, if we go to like /kittens, we hit the server, and the server is like, yo, I don't see a /kittens root, so I am just going to return 404. So it looks like Kate has helpfully commented out some code that we need. So what this is going to do, is that big enough? Oh, that's very big enough. Is that big enough? Okay. So what these 3 lines of code are going to do is they don't have a path in front of them. There's nothing here. So that means that we're going to use this middleware for every request that gets to this point. So every request that hasn't been responded to by one of these. And at that point, we're just going to send index.html. So this is like a very simple way of saying, like, no matter what crap I put in the URL bar, I'm going to get index.html as soon as I restart my server drat. Okay, so now we're not getting a 404. And in fact, if we look at our log, we are, what are we serving? Yeah, so when we get this weird kitten / blah, 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 we're responding with HTML, and I think we're responding with the HTML that's in index.html. Also, there's some error in our React code. Yeah, so this looks like index.html. Let's take a moment to read Kate's comment here, which is, it's relevant because I think you might run into this. We want to make sure when we're serving up our site this way that we have an absolute path referencing our bundle. Why is that? Like, what happens if I just changed it to somewhere? Like, that looks pretty nice too, but I think it's not going to work. The error is here, but it's not clear. So I'm getting this like pretty weird error. What's happening? I think you know. So it's not so much that I need brackets. I don't need brackets in any particular place, but what is, okay, so what bundle.js is this page going to load if I just say bundle.js there? Like, where is it going to be in terms of a full absolute path? No? Because this page, as far as the browser is concerned, is not at the top level. It's at kitten /afgu23 sud / wef yeah. Yeah, so it's going to try and load this. It's going to replace the last component because it doesn't end with a slash and be like, where's bundle.js? And in fact, our server will happily serve this, and what it serves is the HTML file because that's what it serves for every request. So we have to serve an absolute path to avoid that. And also now when you see this error, you kind of have an idea of what's probably happening. Okay, so now we have an absolute path, and we also have an error, which I love those. Cannot read property map if undefined, app.render. All right. So, yep, puppy data is empty because we are not passing in any props with puppy data. Okay, that's unfortunate, but we can fix that. We may, in fact, not want to pass it in as a prop at first. And instead, we perhaps could go and fetch it. So for the moment, let's say that when the component did mount, we will, do I have Axios? I guess we'll find out. import Axios from Axios. And then Axios.get, what'll it be? It'll be like API. We want all the puppies, right? Yeah. Puppies, this dot set state, puppies. And then instead of getting out of props, we'll get it out of state. Probably, oh, state is already initialized to an empty object. That's very nice. Okay, so now maybe we'll have some puppies. Maybe. No, no puppies. Cannot read. Am I building? Is this a thing that's happening? I appear to be building. Let's just say if not puppy data, return loading. Oh, there we go. Kind of. And of course this has to be puppies. 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 Okay, different problem. Puppies.map is not a function. What could, oh, I think it's API puppy, isn't it? No, it's totally a thing. Puppies.map is not a function. Why is that? Oh, because I didn't, what's the next thing I have to do? It's like get the response. Is it just a property? Yeah. Okay. Puppies! Oh, great. We have puppies. We're mapping over them. I think right now they don't have names. They're just like all strings, if I recall. Yeah, okay. I kind of wish these were a little bit less glommed together, but that's okay. Okay, so we've got a link to each of our puppies. Let's actually, we maybe want to, right now clicking on this link doesn't go anywhere is the problem. So I click on it, nothing happens because the href is set to be just hash, which is, it's called a fragment identifier, and it's saying go to some part of the page you're already on. In this case, that part is just nothing, so it doesn't navigate us at all. This is useful, actually, if you want an anchor tag that doesn't navigate you at all. But we actually want an anchor tag that does navigate us. So for that, let's start bringing in React Router and like define some front-end routes. So here, where is it? Oh, we are in app.js. So we're rendering our app. Let's wrap our app in a router. So we need to import something or another. Router, probably in curly brackets, from React Router. I think I might have to install React Router. Also, I'm going to not preserve this log. Okay, so it looks like I do have React Router installed, otherwise I would have complained by now. So let's bring in router and route. And oh, and we need one more thing. We need the kind of history to use. So I think my favorite is browser history, which uses the browser history API. There's also hash history. Oh, great. Oh, yeah. So a router is something that contains routes. So what we're going to end up doing is saying, here's our router. Yeah, history is browser history. And then, so now inside of a router, we can declare routes. So for example, here's a route. It's not match. Path, thank you. I just learned React Router 4. This is React Router 3. They're just subtly different, just a little bit. No good reason. Okay, so let's define like hello world, and we'll say that the component, is hello. Well, you just have to import everything that you use in general. So we now need a hello component. Let's just do something like this, and we'll say hello world. Okay, so now we have a few things happening. One thing that's happening is that it's saying that our current location, which is kittens /bundle, doesn't match any routes. That's not surprising because I never typed that as a route. So let's go look at something that should match a route, like hello-world. And here we have that component. Okay, cool. So probably, if I want to match the root, I can do that, and I can say the component should be the app. So hello world is still there, not doing us much good, but there it is. And then here are our puppies. Also, it really wants us to have unique keys, so let's just do that. Okay. Okay, so we're kind of getting there. Here, I want to change one thing about what I'm doing. Why is this grayed out? Why is this ever grayed out? Whatever. I'm just going to have to do a whole demo about routers without looking at the URL bar that often. Okay, so now we have like a way to handle this view switching that's not whatever way it was that you ended up handling view switching in Juke 1, which was probably, I'm guessing, not wholly satisfactory. You can imagine how if you had 100 routes, it might explode. And now that we have this system, we can probably make these links work. So let's try and let's define a front-end route for a puppy. So we'll say that our path of puppy / puppy ID, puppy name, I guess they are, should be puppy, it should be puppies. Paths are generally plural. Should mount a puppy view. So now these should be links to puppies, puppy. And there we go. So I think what should probably happen here is everything should be crashing because puppy doesn't exist. Yep, puppy is not defined. So let's just define it really dumbly here. And it's going to take, does it take anything? Oh, it does take some stuff, but we don't know what it is yet. So it takes some props and then goes to, hi, I'm a puppy. The thing is, we don't know anything about the puppy yet. But let's just make sure we're getting there. Hi, I'm a puppy, great. But which puppy are you, Pandora? How do you know? Okay, so I think we know because like we get some props. And let's figure out what those props are by maybe doing this. And let's put this into a different kind of tag. So this is a trick I use a lot. We're just going to JSONify stuff and throw it out at us. And wow, look at all these props we're getting. This is great. So we have some reference to the history. That seems like it could be useful. We have a bunch of data about the location we're at. And we have this params prop, which looks to contain all of our, route params. So we can use these in much the way that we use rec.params in Express.
Why is there a separate params and route params?
Yeah, don't know. My first guess is backwards compatibility. My second guess is the same. So yeah, that's it. I'm not really sure. Yeah, it's just making it fixed width, so it's putting it in this font, and then it's making sure that the spaces aren't swallowed by HTML. I think if I just had this be in a paragraph tag, it would get all like glommed together, because in HTML, spaces don't really mean anything. Okay, so back to this. We want to use params.puppyname. Okay, so let's grab params puppy name. And now we need to do a fetch, so we need a class, which means that the arrow function I just wrote doesn't get to work. Another thing we can do, well, okay, let's write the class, and then we'll look at on-enter hooks. So class puppy sends React component, and when we did mount, we're going to get the information for this puppy, presumably, so axios.get. Still can't type. API puppies. Let's get the name equals this.props.params.puppy name. And then we'll get the data of the response, and then we will set it on our state. And then in render, we can just show it somehow. Let's show it like this. But we need this JSON. So now, so now we have data for this actual puppy, but let's not just render a pre-tag. That's really sad. We can be like, here's our puppy div, and here's our puppy name. Const puppy, this.state. Let's pluck it off of state, so puppy name. And then image of puppy.image. This is going to be so satisfying. Still not satisfying. So satisfying! Yay! Yeah. The router. So good question. And the answer is the router injects some params into whatever component you specify here. So that's where it's getting rec.this and that. Yeah, so the params, here, let's just put this back. We'll do this props. Sorry, are you asking about like how it gets all these props, or how it gets these? Yeah, so the router is adding these props. It's passing them into whatever component you specify. And it just like throws all of them at any component. Well, the API call is happening here, and like we're managing it explicitly. The mapping between like, okay, we went to /puppy/Pandora, to the puppy name Pandora, that's being given to us by the router. Yeah, Sarah.
So in like the class puppy, because it's coming from a router, like do you not need the constructor with the super props kind of thing?
Yeah, you don't need a constructor if you don't do anything in the constructor. So all I would do in this constructor is call super, right? There's nothing for me to do. I could initialize the state so I don't have to do this check or something, but I'm not doing anything, so I can just emit it. If you have it, though, you have to call the superclass constructor. That's the trade-off. Okay, so yeah. So params is one of the props we were given. Yeah, exactly. And it's the route params. Params is like whatever it pulled out as like colon whatever. Which means we can actually, so we can have multiple ones presumably, which means we can probably make this component a little bit more generic. Because like right now, okay, here are all our puppies, but where are our kittens? Okay, first of all of these should work now. Here's Reggie. Oh. Here's Taylor. Oh. Yeah. Okay, we're not going to look at all the puppies. You can look at the puppies yourself later. Yeah, so let's put a list of kitties on here as well. I think that should be pretty easy. So kitties dot map kitty key of kitty name. Okay. This naming is really going to screw with me at some point, but we're keeping it. And when we mount, we will also get kitties. Oh, see, it's happening. Is it kittens? It's probably kittens. So kittas. Kittas is kittens. Okay, I regret this. 23, yeah. Oh yeah, that's a problem. That definitely matters. Okay, so now we should like do both of these requests and see kitties as well. No, that didn't happen. Kittens is not defined. Oh. Puppies, I think. Oh, puppies, more puppies. Not puppies or not kittens. Okay, so almost, but kittens don't go to the right place because they're going to /puppies. Let's send them to /kitties, and then make a kitty route. Something I'm noticing is that this puppy component can probably do double duty as like an animal component, but let's do it as two separate things, and then we'll refactor. So kitties, kitty name, and the component will be kitty, and we'll just grab this code and kitty, then kitty, kitten, kitty. I've lost the plot. API. Oh, right, you're right. Yeah. And I'm just gonna leave puppy as is because I think it's fine. Except where is where is this happening? I guess we could maybe catch something. Probably. Okay, let's see what's up. API kitties Thaddeus. Kittens. Yeah, kittens. What's that? Down here? Line 99. No, because this is a completely separate route. So maybe I should, like maybe it would be nice to have them have the same naming scheme, but these are what is presented to the user on the front end, and then the API routes can be completely different. Request failed with 404. Wow, kittens. Oh, kittens undefined. I think probably I'm still extracting. Yeah, this should be kitty name. Oh. Okay. This is the most satisfying live code, I swear. Okay, we've got, ooh. Okay, so we've got Oliver, we've got Thaddeus, and we've got a lot of code that's like almost exactly the same, right? Like puppies and kitties could probably be the same thing. What do we need to do to just like make one component out of them? Yeah, so we could have a conditional. We could also even just pass in kind. So like what kind of animal? And so we're going to just use the animal component for both of these. And oh yeah, and this should probably just be name, because the animal component is not going to like.
Why do you need it twice?
Oh yeah, now I don't. Right. Great. So now we can have an animal component that takes just a name, which means we can just do this. And then we're going to have, oh, and we also want kind. And we're going to want this to be kind, which means kind should probably, we now should make our front end roots like our back end roots so that it's like puppies and kittens, which is fine. So we came to that eventually. And the last thing we have to do, okay, so this is going to be an animal, and this is going to be an animal, and this is also going to be an animal. Okay, that looks pretty plausible. And then the last thing we have to do is make sure these links are correct. So this should be, I think it is puppies here, but it's kittens. And that should cover it. Let's see. Does our main page work? It does. Does this link go to the right place? Kittens, tiger, it seems to. And here's tiger. Tiger is really pretty. And here's Christian. Oh, Christian, what? No. Pandora? Oh, maybe Christian just doesn't have a working image. Poor Christian. Aww. Okay, so easy win. Happy animal photo book. Okay, what else can we do with this? One thing React Router gives us is this like, it gives us a hook that we can, or it gives us a place where we can give it a function that will be called when we are about to enter the root. And I think that is on enter. Hello world probably doesn't need an on enter, but this animal component kind of does. And on enter, we can do something like load animal. Also, I think I'm going to have to look up come on. IntelliSense, you're constantly popping up over everything I'm trying to type, but now when I like want it. Okay, we're gonna figure it out. So this is gonna take next state and, oh, whatever. Let's just Google it. React router on enter. Okay, so in our on enter, this is not the best way to learn what on enter takes by reading someone's random issue. Why are the first things that come up GitHub issues? This is not.
All the React docs are on GitHub.
Yeah. Okay. On enter validate, next state transition callback. Okay, so I think we might want to call these next state, which is the next router state, transition, and then done. I'm pretty sure the last one is done. And I think if this works like, what other thing works this way? Mocha tests, where if we specify done, then it's gonna wait for us, and if we don't specify done, then it won't. So let's just log things for now. Next state, transition, done. So I think right now, because I'm never calling done, I should probably have broken almost anything, or certainly this route. So let's test that our puppies and kitties are broken. So if I try going here, yeah, it's not really doing very much, is it? So we basically got into here, and then it looks like React Router is just like waiting for us to call done. But let's see what it gives us while we are busy working on that. So it gives us, looks like the first thing. Oh, okay. The first thing is this object that has params, amongst other things. Okay, so that's going to be useful to us. And then the second thing, I think this is the second thing, is a function that we can call to replace the state that we're transitioning into with a different state. Let me just make sure that's the case. Okay, so now I've eliminated done, and we should actually be able to load something. Yeah, great. Oh, Oliver. Okay, so I think what we want to do is we want to say, first, load some stuff, and then somehow give it to the component. This is the thing that I'm not totally sure about. How do we actually tell React Router, load data in on next? Like, we want to say, hey, when you mount this thing, please mount it in a different, like with different props. What about starting your data load and component will mount? No, that's what we're trying to not do. Oh, I just remembered something. We can't do the thing I'm hoping to do. The reason we can't do the thing I'm hoping to do is that we can't tell React Router to swap out props. I went down this road before once, I think in a live code. Sorry. Okay, so know that onEnter is something that you have access to, and in particular, I kind of like to use it as debugging sometimes. Like I'll throw an onEnter to ensure that I'm actually like matching what I think I'm matching and entering the right state. We can't use it for loading data until we are keeping our data somewhere else, like in a store of some kind. So hold that thought. Okay. Some other things that you might find useful are redirects, index routes, and links. So right now, we're like making all our links just with anchor tags. So we just have like a href equals like puppies. React Router gives us a link element that lets us reference other paths by their front end path. So other routes by their front end path. And it's going to look kind of depressingly like similar to this, but let's do it anyway so that you can see what it looks like. So we're going to have to bring in link, and then here we can say this is a link to that particular puppy. Close the link. And there's a link to this kitty. Close link. And it's doing the same thing. Link is the preferred way to do links between your front-end routes because it lets React Router swap out the implementation. So right now it's just like always using an anchor tag, but it may choose under certain circumstances to either use a different way of causing the navigation, like it might just attach an event listener, like a click event listener, to whatever you pass as a child of the link. Or it might still use an anchor tag, but also like attach some extra processing to any navigation event that starts on that element. Basically, this is the way to declaratively tell React Router, hey, I want this thing to be a reference to a link to another front-end route, and I don't really care how you do it. Okay, so we have routes, we have links. Last thing, like index routes and redirects. So right now, this is our, like when we go to the root path, we are just mounting the app, and that's fine. That's what we want. In some circumstances, you'll want to have a different component. You'll want to like redirect to a different path when you hit the root. So let's just take a look at that. Let's say that I want my root to redirect to like / puppies and kittens. So creative, I know. So we can make that path first of all. And then in a parent route, we can put what's called, we can say index redirect to puppies and kittens. And let's bring in index redirect. Okay, so puppies and kittens now works, and then if we go to the root, we're going to end up redirected here. Another way of doing this is you can say index route, which I also have to bring in. Yeah, what do you think, Vid? You're not into it? It's Yeah, so this is how NPM style guide recommends you do it, and I don't know, I really thought it was super weird at first, but it does create this like really nice sort of visual rhythm of like, here's the kind of thing we're listing, and then here's like all the instance of it. Also, you're not going to forget a comma. It's like really noticeable if you forget a comma. So I don't know. You don't have to type things that way, but I've sort of come to like it. Okay, last thing. Right, so we covered index redirects. An index redirect will actually redirect you. So if I go to, oh god, so if I go to the root, it's actually going to change what's in the URL bar to be what the redirect points at. An index route, I think this might not be correct, but to puppies and kittens will just render that route as the index. Or it'll render nothing as the index, nothing whatsoever, because I don't know how it works. Oh, maybe it's path. Should not have a path prop. Okay, Jesus, just what should it have? What should it have? Okay, index routes. Sorry, what's that? That's right. That's right. So I could do this. Okay. If you find yourself wanting to like actually redirect, like you want your root view to be a view that's mounted somewhere else in your URL scheme, I recommend redirecting. Because that way you have sort of a canonical URL for a particular view. It's like if you, later we're going to see the skeleton, the like sort of basic React app that we provide everyone with for senior phase projects. And that app, for example, has a bunch of stupid skeleton jokes because it's a skeleton. Get it? And those are mounted at /jokes, and we sort of want them to be there. But we also want something to come up when you visit the main page, so we have an index redirect to send you to /jokes. Also, we want to show you how, in the skeleton, how index redirect would work. All right, so that covers it for the basics of React Router. As you noticed, you're going to be spending some time in the docs. React Router 3, not 4. 4 is new and shiny and works slightly differently. 3 is what we're using because when we were writing this workshop, 4 was like still super new and super beta, and they didn't recommend that anyone use it. And I think that's changing, so it'll probably change at some point. But for now, stick to 3. And the docs are your friend. And I hope you have a much more like usable and fun to play with music player after all of this. Any questions? Okay, great. I will send out the recording for this video and then also make sure pairs and the workshop are open. So just like take 5 minutes and I will get all that set up for you.